I wanted to start off by saying that while some things aren't addressed in this video, given the length, I tried to tackle as much as I could while skipping over things that can be discovered on your own. The goal of this was to give new players enough tools to learn the game. I go over many of the important systems, and anything that gets glossed over will have links in the description. This is a long video, so make sure to use the chapters to skip around. I've split up the video in level order. If you have any questions that aren't answered by the end, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to help you out. This was a labor of love. I'm not a content creator, so if there are errors or anything else, I'll try to fix them with the captions. I've been playing Maplestory since 2007. A friend of mine I saw at church told me about this free game we could play online. Chen, if you're out there, you're a real one. Since that time, I've always been on and off with the game, and it's definitely had its ups and downs in terms of quality. But with the release of Reboot and the various quality of life and content changes the past couple of years, the game is actually in a pretty good state right now. I've seen old content creators and players come back to the game after half a decade away, the player count continues to go up even past the COVID peak, and there's even a new Reboot server coming out. With Sit Job on the horizon, along with even more positive changes, the game is quietly becoming one of the better MMOs on the market. It's at least the one that captures my attention the most. Now, that definitely is not to say that the game is perfect or that there aren't any criticisms. Obviously, there's a ton of things that they could be improving on. But if you enjoy the gameplay loop and the feeling of progression, then there is no other MMO that scratches this itch. Which leads me to my first point, setting the right expectations. Maplestory is a grinding game. It's less of a WoW or a FF14 and more like old school RuneScape. 90% of your playtime will look like this. Which isn't a bad thing. This is the best game to play while watching something, a genre that is woefully underrepresented in my opinion. The other 10% will be taken up by bossing, instance quests, item upgrading, hunting for rare items, and chatting with other Maplers. There are also improvements being made every patch that make grinding less of a requirement by attaching more EXP to dailies. At the end of the day, though, you'll either have to enjoy the grind on some level, or this game probably isn't for you. This game also takes a long time to progress in. Measuring progress is better done in weeks or months rather than hours. Liberating, which is the system that gives the best weapon in the game, takes 8 months at least to complete. Now we're seeing the timeline shorten as Nexon makes getting into the mid-game easier, but don't expect to finish this game too quickly. The good news is that most of the fun happens before the endgame. Endgame in Maplestory is just a lot of waiting mostly, so rushing to it isn't the point. It's also a game that greatly rewards how much time you put into it. The more you play, the stronger you get. All of this to say, enjoy the journey. Alright, so after this preamble, you're still interested. First question you'll likely have is whether to download the game using the Nexon launcher or Steam launcher. There isn't much difference between the two, functionally. One key thing is that Steam will only be able to have one account tied to the launcher, so if you have two accounts, you won't be able to switch over. I've always used the Nexon launcher, and especially because I don't want to see my time played, I doubt I'll change that. But just pick whichever is more convenient. So you've downloaded the game, created an account, now you're in. North American servers are much more populated than the European servers. However, if ping is important, just pick whichever is closest to you. There are two different types of servers in Maplestory. Regular servers, such as Bara, Windia, or Scania, and the Reboot server. Regular servers are your typical MMO server, which has trading, unique cash up items that will make your experience easier, and generally pay to win. There are a lot of cash up items that are both necessary and or make the game easier. Now you can play the game as a free-to-play player, but it will be much harder, and you'll still have to interact with the NX system somehow, even if you're just using the in-game currency. I won't be going over a regular server as I don't think it's a good idea to play there, especially as a new player, but hopefully this guide will help you either way. As a side note, there's also a burning server which allows you to make special burning characters that gain extra levels. You can make several burning characters here and transfer them to a regular world once the event is over. Since this is just a bonus for regular server players, I won't be mentioning it anymore. So while writing the script, Nexon went and announced Reboot 2, which will be an additional Reboot server in North America. The main difference with this server is that, since it's made now, there won't be any legacy items, so players will be on even ground to start with. Legacy items are just items that you can't access anymore. These can be things that make your character stronger through the equipment menu, or the Legion system, or even through pets. The old Reboot server will be called Chronos, while the new server is Hyperion. Now, picking which server to play on will depend on what kind of player you are. Hyperion, being new, means that more people will be progressing through lower level bosses, and there will be a lot of opportunity to connect with those players. But since Chronos will be more established, it will be more popular and have more people playing current content. Here's what I'll say. If you are completely new and just want to have fun for a bit, play on the new server. If you are new but usually want the more populated or competitive server, I would pick Reboot 1/Chronos. If you are an old player and have any characters already made on Chronos, I would just start with Chronos. Since the new server isn't out yet, I can't give any more specific advice, but the rest of the video should help in either server. Reboot is the expected server to play in the game, and is the free-to-play Iron Man server. This doesn't mean that there aren't ways to spend money, and we'll get into some of those later, but the main progression of your character and the journey to endgame is not slowed down by being free-to-play. As the Iron Man server, there's no trading whatsoever, so equipment can't be traded to other players, and you can't give equipment to other characters in your account. Everything you get on one character is locked to that one character. This makes the game slower to start out on, but way faster to progress once you get into the later areas of the game. Reboot also has a 5 times bonus to Meso, the currency, and drop rate, meaning you'll get more items and money from grinding mobs versus regular servers. Now, depending on when you're playing, there may or may not be a burning event. Burning events give you 2 extra levels every time you level up once. So, for example, instead of leveling from 10 to 11, you'll level from 10 to 13. There are different types of burning events, which give the effect until 150, 200, 250, or even 260. This might be controversial, but I would suggest waiting to use the burning effect if it's available. There are a lot of classes in the game, and burning the wrong one might leave you feeling a little bummed. If you are knowledgeable on how the classes play and are confident you want to play one, then go ahead and burn that class. But if you're unsure at all, I would suggest just waiting and trying things out first. After picking a server, it'll prompt you to pick a channel. You can think of channels as instances, so it doesn't really matter what you pick right now. Later on, you'll likely have to change channels, or CC as it's called, to find open maps to grind, but starting out it doesn't really have much of an effect, so just pick whichever one you feel like. You're into the character creation screen. Now, you'll start out with only a few character slots, but you can buy them with misos, or have them rewarded from events. So it's very easy to get more. Let's talk about the class and job system. Both class and job are used pretty interchangeably, but they do mean slightly different things. I'll be using the nomenclature from the Nexon site to not create confusion. So there are 5 different class archetypes: magicians, thieves, warriors, bowmen, and pirates. Now, one thing to note is that Maplestory is not set up like other MMOs or RPGs. Every character is viable as a solo player and can do a little bit of everything. Frailty, ranged, physical, magic, these things don't really matter in the game, as every class can blow up the screen or kill all the bosses. After level 200, which is pretty early on into the game, funnily enough, mobs won't do much damage and boss attacks will only hit for a percentage. So when I reference tankiness or ranged, this is more of an aesthetic description rather than a gameplay one. At the end of the day, don't let these things dissuade you from playing specific characters if you think they look cool. Okay, note over. The movement system of the game is pretty simple. You walk around, you jump. Every character has an additional movement option, either a teleport or a flash jump. There are also 2 other movement options. Demons and Corsair, among maybe some others that I'm forgetting, have access to a glide, and Flora jobs have access to a quick hover. Thieves also get a second flash jump, which makes them a slightly faster class horizontally, And there are also secondary movement options such as grappling hooks, dashes, portals, or class-specific teleports. Again, each class is viable, but the movement is one of the key ways they play differently, so make sure to consider these options when picking a main. Back to the classes. Each class is kind of what you would expect. Magicians use elemental magic or other spells. They're generally more frail, have a teleport instead of a second jump, and are ranged. Thieves are a little bit more mobile with double flash jump, but squishy. Warriors are tanky and attack with typical swords, spears, and other knight-like weaponry, except blasters for some reason. Bowmen use arrows, and pirates are just whatever is left over, really. They usually punch or shoot things, but are much more discordant thematically from the other classes. Within each class branch are the specific characters or jobs. Now, they are usually either split up by race or faction. Explorers, for example, have multiple paths for each class type. If you want to be a pirate, you can be a buccaneer, corsair, or cannoneer. The only thing that these groupings affect is the intro storyline and whether they can share a cash shop inventory system. We'll go over the cash shop inventory later, and I will leave a link in the description to see each grouping. The character select screen can be confusing, which is a great intro to a game with many confusing systems. But for the most part, each selection with the named job, like Cannoneer, Adele, Laura, etc., will be one job, while selections with a faction or race name will have multiple selections once you get started, such as Explorers, Resistance, Cygnus, or Demon. Every job will be slightly different, and a lot of key differences will be hard to notice as a new player or sound like nonsense. Now, you might hear KMS used a lot in-game or in conversations. KMS just stands for Korean Maplestory as opposed to GMS or Global Maplestory, which is the North and South American version of the game. KMS is where we get our content from, and they are 6 months ahead of us. So patches will show up in KMS and we can see what we get in the future. I said all classes are viable in the game, and for the most part that is true, but there are 3 classes not in the Korean version of the game: Hayato, Kana, and Beast Tamer. I will say, if you want to play Hayato or Kana, just be aware that these classes might have more bugs, or in the case of big content patches in KMS, you'll be left in the dark until the content comes to GMS, not knowing how good or bad the class will be. These classes can still clear all the content, but maining them might be more frustrating than just playing a KMS class. Beast Tamer, on the other hand, I would not recommend, especially because right now, they're going to be behind everyone else since their 6th job is still in development. As a result, we have no idea what it's going to be or when it will come out, and I can't recommend this class at all. Just play something else, it's not worth it. The rest of the classes are in various states of strength, but besides these 3 exceptions, there's no reason not to main another class unless you just don't like it. Again, every class can do all the content in the game, and while players may want something specific out of party members for endgame bosses, 1, it will take a while to get to endgame, and once you get there, patches may have completely destabilized the rankings, and 2, you will spend so much time playing a character that the benefits of playing the best class is nothing against the fun you'll have with a class you enjoy. With so many classes, picking the first one to try may be daunting at first. I would suggest just picking what you think looks cool, as with Legion and Lynx, which we'll get into a bit later, most choices will provide some benefit to your account. You're never wasting time and effort trying something out. If you're really not sure about what to try first, here are some suggestions. The Explorers were revamped in summer 2022 and have a lot of quality of life for their skills. Picking any of them would be a fine choice, but especially Buccaneer, Hero, Dark Knight, or one of the Mages. These classes are extremely simple, hard to die on, and a good introduction to how the game plays. Ignore this rating system, as it means nothing and won't give you any idea on what the class is actually like. Cygnus Knights were also recently revamped in winter 2022, so they share a lot of the quality of life for their kit. Dawn Warrior and Wind Archer are the standouts here, as they are very, very simple. Nightwalker is also an amazing choice for a main right now, since they have everything you can want in their kit, but they will be very squishy on a new account up to level 200. You can also try one of the newer characters released, like Adele, Ho-Young, Laura, or Arc. These characters will be more complicated than Explorers or Cygnus, usually featuring some kind of gauge system for their skills, but we'll have a storyline so you can follow up to level 30, which might be easier to get into than just being thrown into the world. Being newer, they also have a lot of quality of life in their kit, such as few to no active buffs, good skill animations, and easy mobbing. I'm leaving out other newer classes like Kane or Kali, since these classes require comboing and are much harder to play. I would also suggest going against Blaster or Cadena for the same reasons, but if you always pick the hardest classes in the game, then go ahead. I'll also give some specific advice for Reboot 2. Play a class that provides party utility. Battle Mage, Bishop, Kana, Dawn Warrior, Blaze Wizard, Night Lord, or Zero all provide a lot of party utility and or burst. These classes will be popular and wanted for parties progressing through the content. You can also play Shadower, as they have a passive 20% miso, which means that you'll be getting miso faster than any other class in the game. Once you've picked the job you want, you'll be brought to the character creation and naming screen. Go ahead and pick out whatever IGN you like, and then we'll jump into the Maple world. Okay, so this is real-time Cal here. I've just made my character. I've decided to pick a Cygnus Knight, and this will be a Dawn Warrior. So I just went through the introductory cutscene, and now I'm here. And you can see that there's hotkeys on the screen telling me how to move, how to jump. This quest icon is telling me that I should talk to them. But first, before we do any of that, let's talk about the UI, because the UI can definitely be a little confusing to new players. So I'm just literally going to go through what everything is. So first, over here on the left, we have the chat box. You can see that there are different types of chat that I can see, whether it's just party chat, just friend chat, just guild chat, or just alliance chat. And then we have the all here. And so these are pulls that people are getting from the cash shop. I think one thing that a lot of new players struggle with is hiding this. So just as a tip, if you go here and create a new chat box, and we'll just call this chat, you can have it set to normal, friend, party, guild, alliance, whispers. Set that, and you'll only get chat messages. So for example, if I were to say hello, you can see I said hi here, but we're missing all of these dumb system messages. And for example, if I, well, actually, I guess I don't have any skills I can put on cooldown or anything, but if I did try to press a skill that was on cooldown, I would get a message here. If I have it here, I don't. So that's one thing I would do right off the bat, is to make sure that you're not getting inundated with these messages and your chat box is actually useful. You can see there's another couple of options here. Whispering is just having a direct message to somebody in the game, so you can type out their name, send them a whisper, only they'll see it. They can respond to you directly. You can link an item or an achievement. So if you wanted to share your item with someone else, either so that they can compare stats, or I don't know, share an achievement to show that you've done a boss before, this is how you do it. You just go, let's see, we'll do Black Mage. So I've done Black Mage once. I'll click it here, and they'll see if they hover over it that I've done it. I did it in February. There's a help button, which doesn't do anything, which is great. You can adjust the chat and font size, and you can allow different things. And you can also have it pop out so that instead of, if you're playing in windowed, you can have the chat outside of the main screen and read it on the side. There's been some issues with it recently where having external chat can make recordings weird or streaming on Discord weird, so I've just had it in game. This is the same thing, so you can just display it on the outside and display it in the window. Outside of that, there's the event star notification. I wouldn't worry about this right now. There's the map, and you can either have it as everything, so the location name, the map itself, just the map, or just the location name. I like to have everything because why not? Down here, you have your EXP. So it shows you, if you hover over it, the amount you have, the amount you need to level up, and the percentage you're at currently. So I'm at 0 EXP and 0% to the next level. Over here, you'll see my level, my health, and my MP. Now, some classes won't have MP. They'll have a separate system. Like, for example, Kinesis doesn't have an MP bar. They have I think it's a TP bar. This bar essentially is just whatever you use to cast skills. So whether you're a demon class, a Kinesis class, or one of the classes that uses MP, this just represents how much you can do. Now that I'm thinking about it, though, Angelic Buster doesn't have an MP bar. They have something else entirely. That's fine. We don't have to worry about that. There are obviously going to be some outliers. There's 40 plus classes. For the most part, this is what it's going to look like. You can see my name, you can see my channel, and you can see my job. Over here, there's the cash shop key. This will bring you directly into the cash shop. There's the event. This shows you all of the ongoing events right now and the rewards. And this is daily gifts. We can't look at that right now, but every month there's a daily gift for logging in and killing 300 mobs. Again, nothing to worry about right now. You can't even access it. The character tab. This is the drop down for all of the character info you might need. So, for example, this is what people see when they double click on you. You can see what type of face you have, what type of hair, your skin color, and what you currently have equipped. And you'll also see that there are some other things here. We don't necessarily have to worry about them right now, so I'll explain that later. You can also double click on a character to see this without having to go to this menu. There are stats, there are skills, equipment, inventory, and Maple Guide. I'll go over all of them in 1 second. I just want to make sure that we take it how a new player would probably approach the game. So before we do anything, I just want to point out the skill bar here. You can either click this key or click the right bracket. That's the default hotkey on your keyboard to move it out, and you can see more of your hotkeys. I like having it fully extended. And what I'm going to do right now is just set my key binding. So you can either do it by clicking on this gear icon or by clicking on the, I don't know what you would call this, like the right, or by clicking on the key to the right of your right bracket. I don't know what this key is actually called, but it's right above the enter key. It's this one right here. This brings up your key binding. So the first thing you're going to notice is, wow, there's a lot of key bindings, and that's very true. The good thing is, or maybe it's a bad thing, it really depends, is that a lot of these you're not going to need slotted. So we can go over a bit on the important ones to have, and you can set it up however you'd like. I'm going to set it up the way that I like to do it. So first, we have all of the chat hotkeys. Now, there's different types of chat. They generally show up in different colors. So, for example, general chat, which is just people in your map with you, shows up as white for me. If I press 2, it goes to party chat. Okay, I can't create a party, but if I could, it would show up as purple. I can press 3 for friend chat. Hello, this shows up as orange. This only goes out to people on my buddy list. Guild chat, I'm not in a guild, so I can't do. But as you can imagine, they're each in other colors, so you can see which chat is being spoken in at any given time. And you can also change the colors. So you can change the colors for each thing, and you can see that there. So back to the key bindings. The way that I like to do it, and I do have 100% keyboard, is I like to have all of my chat keys in the F keys. I don't really use them that much. These are emotes. So for example, I can be angry, They used to be more relevant when this was more of like a social chat box type of game. At this point, I don't really think people use them that much. You might see, actually, in chat, sometimes people will say F3 or something like that. That's referring to the specific face. It's kind of like a leftover vestige of an earlier version of Maplestory. But that's, if you see that, that's what they're referring to, is the emoticons. I don't really use them, so I tend to get rid of all of them. So now we have this beautiful clean row. I do keep the cash shop where it is. We have some other important keys. So we have the quest log, which will pull up your current quests. You can see what's available to you. You can see what is in progress, and you can see what you've completed, right? So I put this at 7. We have the world map, which you can't see right here. You can also click on this on the map to get to the world map. But I like to put this at 8. We have the equipment, which shows what you currently have equipped. It shows your cache tab, which is basically like decorative or glamour items, you can think of it as. And your presets for that. Your pet tab, I don't have any pets right now, but they would go here. And your android, which is not a pointless feature because it allows you to equip another item, but they really don't do anything. You can sell things using the android, and you can dress them up. So I guess they do that if you're into that. But yes, that's basically the equipment menu. I like to have this at 9. We have the friends tab. I don't really click into this that often. And one thing you'll find is that with the UI, there's a lot of overlap between them. So for example, right, I just got rid of the friend hotkey. I get rid of that because if I press P for party, it brings up the party tab, and I can see my buddy tab. So, you know, a lot of these you can kind of just have one. I guess it depends on how often you use which one. For me, I'm not really looking at my buddy list very often, so I tend to just have the party key. This is the boss party key, so if you press it, it shows you all of the bosses, and if we were the right level, we could just teleport to the boss. So, for example, you want to do your bosses, so you would just open up this key, go to the boss you want to do, it'll send you to them. There's also party recruitment, and here shows you which bosses you've done for the week. Obviously, since this is a new character, I haven't done any of them. So that is what that key does. Again, I tend not to have this binded because of guide. This is a really, really useful key, and I would suggest having this somewhere where you're going to remember where it is, or at the very least something that is worth having binded at the very least. So the guide key I can't use, so I'll show that later. I'll insert a clip for that. Then we have the items. Yeah, items tab. You can expand it like this. I always have it like this. I don't know how you can possibly use it this way. This shows how many mesos you have, which is the currency you use to upgrade things and what drops from mobs. You have Maple Points, which is like a secondary type of premium currency. It's given out during events, or you can transfer NX cash to it. Again, it's not something I would worry about right now. The use tab, these are your use items, etc., which is kind of like mob drops or quest items, stuff like that. Setup, which is like titles and chairs. Titles will give stats, and they'll give a little thing over your name. You can hide it or show it. Chairs are just basically aesthetic things. You sit in them. They don't do anything. They used to be a thing where you would heal. It's not really relevant anymore, so it's basically just a show off. Cash up tab shows pets, hair coupons, megaphones, like whatever stuff you'll get in the cash shop will generally show up here. Cubes, the glamour items that you get from the cash shop will show up in this tab. There are also some keys here. We don't really have to worry about them right now. We'll get into that at a later level. You might notice that in these 3 tabs, there's a lot of X'd out spots. It requires Meso to expand your slots, or you get them as rewards from events or a bunch of other stuff. It's very, very easy to expand these slots, so don't worry about your inventory. And honestly, for the most part, you probably won't even need to clean out your inventory until a much later level. So don't worry about the inventory management right now. Everything that you're getting is replaceable. Don't be stressed about throwing away a piece of equipment. You'll get better ones later on. As long as you have the best things equipped on you right now, none of the other stuff matters. So yeah, that's the inventory menu. This stuff I tend to just kind of have all equipped on the default hotkeys. There's also the enhanced equipment we can't do because we're level 1. Party, same thing. The menu, this pulls up this hamburger menu. There's a lot of different things on here. Again, they're not really relevant at level 1, so I wouldn't worry about that. Your stats, this is pretty relevant. This shows your damage range, your HP, MP, and then a bunch of other stats, which is going to feel like a lot is being thrown at you at once. We'll go over everything once all of this stuff is unlocked for us. I like to have this over on J. And then guild I have on L. That just pulls up your guild menu. I'm not in a guild, but if you were, you could see all of the members, guild PQ, guild castle, stuff like that. Skills I like having on K. This shows you all of the skills you can have. And so one of the things we haven't talked about yet is the job levels or the job advancements. I will go over that once we hit level 10 and we unlock first job. Job, class, these things can be very confusing. The important thing to know is that each character, right? So whether you're playing an explorer thief or an Adele or a Kinesis or any of these classes, they will usually start at level 1. And at level 1, you are what's called a beginner, right? I know it says noblesse here. This is just a sickness word for beginner. So as a beginner, you generally don't have any skills, right? So I'm at level 1. I don't have these 2 skilled. This is a passive skill. This is a passive skill. This is a passive skill, you know. But I don't have any skill points to put into these skills. Now, once I do level up, I will get skill points. And then at level 10, I can unlock first job. So every single class has a progression system where at level 10, they'll unlock their first job and their first job set of skills. At level 30, they'll unlock second job. Level 60, third job. 100, fourth job. And then fifth job at 200. You may have heard of sixth job. That's the big update coming in November. That will unlock at level 260. Not something I would worry about right now. That's the skills tab. And I feel like we're really chugging here because there is a lot to go through. Now, medals doesn't really do anything. You get medals from completing quests and leveling up and beating bosses. They give very little stats. You equip whichever one is best. This hotkey isn't really necessary, but I don't have anything else to replace it with, so it sits there. Pickup, this is an important key. This picks up stuff on the ground. If you don't have a pet, you will need to use this. Sits in the chairs that I mentioned in the setup tab earlier. Event, this is just a hotkey for this event list. Professions is another system that, again, won't be relevant until much later. Minimap changes how much you see. Attack, this is your basic attack. This is your jump on Alt. And then this is the interact key. So I like to put interact on Y. You'll see a lot of people will do that. And what that does is it just allows you to skip through the text easier and auto accept. Okay, so now that all of your hotkeys are set up, I like to do jump on space as well. You click save, and if you press cancel, it'll ask to make sure, but just press save. It'll save. These are to change these keys. So once your keyboard is actually set up well, you can change this, and then you'll be able to see your skill cooldowns and whatever stuff you'd like to see. The way I like to do it is I like to have the ASDF as the main skills, these as the buffs, these two rows, but you can set it up however you like, and it really depends on what type of character you're playing. Some characters will only need like 4 buttons, honestly, and some will require a lot of buttons. From level 1 to 10, you'll usually just have your beginner tutorial quests, which will teach you how to navigate the map and move around, how to equip things, use potions, etc. At level 10, you'll be able to complete your first job advancement, and you'll unlock your first set of job skills for your character. Each job advancement will give you a collection of skills to unlock and improve up until your next advancement. So first job will start at level 10 and go until level 30, where you can do your second job advancement set of quests. This unlocks your second job skills and so forth. The advancement levels are 10, 30, 70, 100, 200, and 260. Every time you level, you'll gain 3 skill points that you can use to upgrade your skills. There are no builds, so just max everything before advancing to the next job. You can click and drag skills under your Keybindings window to assign them. From levels 10 to 30, you'll usually have your job quest line to do, or you can go off and grind on low-level monsters. You can refer to leveling guides for exact maps, but either way, it shouldn't take very long to get to level 30 and your second job advancement. You can find this and many other important quests by clicking the white light bulb on the left side of your screen. At this point, you may have opened your stats screen and noticed that there were points you need to assign here. Every class has a main stat. Warriors will use strength, thieves, luck, and etc. You can just click the auto assign button, which will automatically assign the points to your main stat. Each level will give you 5 stat points to dump into your main stat. Let's take a look at the rest of the stats screen. While it seems like a ton of information, this is more a result of bad UI design rather than any actually complicated data. First thing you'll want to do is expand out the detail tab if you don't have this already. If you hover over each section, a pop-up will come up that describes what each one is and how it's calculated. Some are self-explanatory. Your name, your job, the guild you're in, fame, a nothing system, people can fame or defame your character, and it doesn't provide any real benefits. Your damage range is a calculation that shows how much damage you can expect to do. This varies wildly from class to class and doesn't actually tell you what damage you'll end up doing. To see what damage you'll actually do, you need to look at your skill percentages and compare to your range. What damage actually comes out is a complicated equation, and I'll have a link in the description which explains all of this if you're interested. But suffice to say, the damage range is kind of useless, though it's nice to see this number go up regardless. Below is the HP and MP, ability points, and your stats. The number on the left is your total, while the number within the parentheses represent your assigned stat points, plus stat from Legion, equipment, potentials, links, etc. The hyperstat window I explain later in the video. In the detail window, you'll find your range again, and then some other pieces. Damage is a multiplier used to calculate range and is shown as a percentage. You can get damage percentage from potentials, link skills, hyperstats, or skills. Boss damage is the same thing as damage, but applied to bosses. Final damage is another multiplier for your range and is usually applied by passives. You can't upgrade this number as far as I know. Buff duration is a multiplier for buff duration. So say you use a 3-minute buff. With extra buff duration percentage, that 3 minutes becomes even longer. This is useful for classes like Explorer Mages or other classes with strong buffs that aren't 100% uptime. You can upgrade this with abilities, Legion, or traits. Ignore Defense, shortened to IED, is a very important stat that determines how much of your damage goes through on a boss monster. There's a calculation I'll show on the screen now, but basically it will determine how much of your damage makes it through to a boss. All bosses will have something called PDR, or percent damage reduction, which IED will ignore. I don't want to get too into the weeds with this, but higher IED equals a higher percentage of your damage making it to the boss. IED sources include titles, skills, node levels, hyper skills, equipment, potentials, legion, links, traits, and potions. Item drop rate will determine the chance to drop items like node stones, equipment, or other items from mobs and boss monsters. This can be improved up to 200% by gaining item drop potential lines on accessories, abilities, item drop familiars, or item drop buffs. In the same vein, Meso obtained will increase the amount of Mesos dropped by mobs. This sits at 500% by default on Reboot, but can be improved by gaining Meso potentials, abilities, or Meso obtained buffs. Note that to guarantee Meso bags drop from mobs, you'll need at least 67% item drop. Critical rate is straightforward, chance to crit. 100% is best. Archers have bonuses for going above 100% crit rate, and you can gain critical rate through Legion, links, skills, and equipment. Critical damage is a multiplier to your critical hits that make them do even more damage. This is a very important stat as it greatly increases your damage the higher it goes. You can get critical damage through skills, equipment potentials, Legion, and hyper stats. Attack speed is how quickly you can use skills. The default stage depends on your weapon, so in my case, my weapon has a stage of 6. This can be improved by using the weapon booster skill every class will have. That brings me up to 8. This is a soft cap which you can break by using the extreme green potion from Monster Park. This will bring you to 9, and then by using speed infusion you can go up to 10. You might see people using AS2 or AS0. These are the old names prior to the stat revamp we got. AS0 and attack speed level 10 mean the same thing and are GMS exclusives. Attack power is the additive number of all your attack stats. You can also see the percentage of attack potentials on your equipment. This is the same for magic attack. Abnormal status resistance determines how long you're debuffed from bosses. The stat really isn't that relevant as you're not going to be able to really improve this. Some classes have higher status resistance like paladins, but it's not a big difference at all. Knockback resistance or what the fuck are you doing? Knockback resistance or stance is the chance to get knocked around by mobs when they touch you. Every class has 100% now through passive skills by 3rd or 4th job. Defense is a pointless stat after level 200, but shows how much defense you have from gear. Star Force shows how many stars you have on equipment, which we'll go over later. Speed is your walk speed and varies from job to job. Jump is how high you can jump, and every class sits at 123%. Arcane power and sacred power show how much of either you have. We'll go over arcane power later, and sacred is basically the same exact thing as that. At level 50, you'll unlock the Eye Opener quest in the Lightbulb menu. This will unlock the abilities section of your stats screen. Abilities provide 3 passive buffs to your character, including huge benefits like boss damage, cooldown skip, attack, or normal monster damage, among other things. This will start at the rare tier. You can improve this by resetting potential or using circulators. Both will randomize your abilities and give a chance to tier up. Once tiered up, your first line will be unable to tier back down. Use the honor EXP you get from grinding and bosses to reset your ability to legendary tier. From that point, use circulators or more honor points for whatever your class guide says you should look for. Once you've completed your second job advancement, you'll unlock even more skills and probably start to find better equipment. At this point in the game, you'll just be using whatever you can find from quests or mob drops. These numbers in white mean that you'll gain this much damage range from equipping this item. When the numbers are red, it means that you'll lose range from equipping it. The damage formula in Maplestory can be positively arcane, but early on, just equip whatever you get that makes the numbers go up. Level 30 will also unlock the first set of theme dungeons, Gold Beach, Rena Strait, and Fairy Academy. Theme dungeons are locales with their own short questline, mobs, and rewards. These pose a great alternative to mindless grinding, especially since the mobs in the dungeon will scale to your level, so complete all 3 or however much you need to get to level 60. While leveling, you might notice these runes sitting on maps. If you go up to them and press your interact key, this pop-up will appear. Complete the sequence using the arrow keys and you'll get a 2x experience buff for a short time. Each rune will also have a secondary effect, such as making you bigger or summoning giant mobs. After popping a rune, there'll be a 15-minute cooldown until the next one can be activated. Use these to secure even more experience and level up faster. You might also start seeing these portals show up on your map while you're training. There are 3 different types: Inferno Wolf portals, which are red, Bounty Hunting portals, which are yellow, and Aspecia portals, which are purple. Each portal will transport you to a different piece of content. Infernal Wolf portals will send you to the Infernal Wolf Den. Basically, hit the big wolf until 20 seconds is up. Bounty hunting portals will send you to a hunting map, just kill all the mobs, or to a quick minigame. The Specia portals will bring you to a map where you have to time a button press to clear a totem. All of these will give a hunter's pouch and or experience and are worth doing pre-200. After level 200, the only one really worth doing is the purple portal or when there are special events which improve the EXP. These hunter pouches also provide things such as cubes, flames, honor medals, potential scrolls, and they might be generally pretty useful for you in the early game. You'll also unlock the Maple Guide UI around here, which you can use to fast travel to towns and bosses. It will even provide you a decent list of maps to grind for your level range. The Maple Guide is incredibly useful, and learning how to use it effectively will save you tons of time. The Maple Guide will also give out rewards at certain levels, including a title that gives some stat and 10% bonus experience when equipped. This title will last for 90 days and can be swapped to other characters in your account, so use it to get a jump start. One of the huge ways that the Maple Guide is useful is when it comes to attending MVP pops. MVPs are atmospheric buffs that will affect every person sitting on the same map. There are a variety of atmospheric buffs in the game, but MVPs are one of the most important since it gives you a 1.5x experience bonus. You'll see people world chat messages like MVP XX25 at Shrine CC8. This might seem like gibberish, but it's easy to break down. MVP is obviously the buff. XX25 is a way to say at hour 25. So if it's 122 for you right now, the buff will be at 125. Shrine is a map in your Maple Guide called Mushroom Shrine. This map is used because it's very large, you can fast travel to it from anywhere, and you can't cast skills on it, so no lagging out others. Finally, CC7 refers to the channel it will take place on. So go to the map, change channel, and wait for the host to pop the buff. MVP buffs will last for 30 minutes, so take advantage. Once you reach 60, complete your class's third job advancement and start putting points into the third job skills. The 60 to 100 level range is one of my least favorite ranges, honestly, as you don't unlock many new things to do and the third job skills often feel lackluster. But you can pretty quickly get out of this range, so let's keep moving. Use the Maple Guide to find maps within your level or follow a leveling guide. At level 70, on certain characters, you'll unlock what is called their Link skill. Link skills are a system in the game wherein characters will give their passive buff to another character by linking them together. So for example, Mercedes has a passive bonus to experience. At level 70, they're able to share their buff with another character through the Link skill menu. So now your Mercedes and another character can both have this bonus EXP buff. This level 70 unlock is called a level 1 Link skill. Getting that character to level 120 will improve the Link skill to level 2 and provide a small upgrade to the buff. Mercedes EXP bonuses will go from 10% to 15% when upgraded. Some Link skills even go up to level 3 after getting a character to 210. Mercedes, for example, will provide 20% experience bonus at 210. Link skills often provide very powerful effects and can make characters much stronger than they would normally be. Take something like Demon Adventure's Link skill, which is straight damage percentage. Each character can have 12 Link skills attached, 13 including their own, and these can be swapped up to 4 times a day. Unlocking as many of these ASAP should be your goal if you want to start leveling quickly, though some are more important than others. For a full list of Link skills, check the description. In the same vein, there's the Legion system, which is an account-wide progression system which measures all of your character's levels. This will unlock once you have a cumulative 500 levels in your world, or when you have your first 5th job character. Legion allows you to assign Tetris shapes to a grid using your account's characters. Each of the 5 classes have different shapes, and each job will provide a different passive benefit. These passive benefits vary from flat stat to regaining HP and MP to crit and boss damage. The grid itself, where pieces are placed, will also give a small benefit, so you can use the Legion board along with Link skills to greatly improve your character's damage. Now each individual character will have a tier and their raid power. These tiers are tied to levels and will increase the size of the block you can place on the grid. These increases are at level 100, 140, 200, and 250. The raid power is a calculation tied to your level and amount of Star Force, so higher level characters with better gear will naturally have higher raid power as well. Your Legion rank can be upgraded using the coins you passively gain from the system. First, you'll need to level enough characters to reach a threshold. The first upgrade happens at 1000 Legion, which is this number right here. Remember that this is the total number of levels in your world. Upgrading from Nameless Legion rank 1 to rank 2 requires 120 coins, and each upgrade will allow you to put more character blocks on the board. Legion coins can be used at this shop in any major town. The rate at which you gain coins will depend on your Legion rank and raid power. The higher your raid power, the more coins you'll make. This shop will provide EXP, drop, and miso buffs along with equipment enhancement items like cubes, flames, and potential scrolls. I recommend not spending coins on any of these items early on, as upgrading your Legion rank is more important. For a full list of Legion benefits, ranks, and other info, check the description. Continue grinding until you reach level 100 and then complete your 4th job advancement. With this completed and your 4th job skills unlocked, you'll generally get a pretty good idea of how your class will play from now on. Do normal Zackum now to get a bunch of free EXP and then continue grinding to 200. There are many new systems you'll unlock now, including Monster Park at 105. Monster Park is a piece of content that has very short dungeons to run through. These take only a few minutes to complete, and you can run up to 7 times a day with coupons from the cash shop, bought with misos or reward points. Completing these short dungeon runs will give you a lot of experience in boxes that give different rewards each day. On Sundays, they give EXP coupons, so make sure to run on at least Sunday. These boxes also give coins you can use to buy Monster Park potions, which give huge buffs. Red and blue potions give 30 attack or magic attack respectively, green potions increase your attack speed, and gold potions give 10% extra XP from mobs. 100 to 120 is pretty quick, and at 120 you will unlock many more bosses, quests, and theme dungeons. You can ignore most of these now, as they are all either low XP, don't reward important items, or are more efficient to do later on. 120 to 140 is mostly the same, but you might notice your damage falling off a bit if you have no Legion or Link skills, or if you've been unlucky with item drops. Once you reach that point, it's time to start thinking about Star Force enhancement. You might be noticing that the equipment you find has these transparent stars along the top. These empty stars represent a lot of gains for that item you're missing out on. So first, let's talk about what Star Forcing is and how to do it. Star Forcing is a way to upgrade equipment. Adding 1 star of Star Force, hereby known as SF, is a way of upgrading equipment by adding bonus stats to the item. Click this icon in your inventory to open the Star Forcing menu. Click and drag the item you want to Star Force into the window. Once an item is placed, it will tell you the success chance and what stats you'll gain from enhancing. Clicking Enhance will open up this minigame where you have to star catch. This is the same as the Especia Portal minigame. Press the spacebar or click the stop button when the star reaches the orange section of the bar. Succeeding in star catching will give a small bonus to your success chance. Star catching is only worth the time investment above 15 stars in my opinion, and you can disable the minigame by checking this box. You can see here that these yellow numbers are additional stats we gain through Star Forcing. Star Forcing is the cheapest and largest gain you can make on any piece of equipment, so people tend to do this first before potentials or flaming. There are basically 3 or 4 stages of Star Force an item will have. 0 to 10 is generally very easy to achieve and cheap to do. Items will not lose stars upon failure, and the success chance is pretty high. 10 stars is a good stopping point since lower level items have it as a cap, and it's a cheap, easy way to make leveling to 200 easier. You can also stop at 12 or 15 stars. As you move up in Star Force, the cost becomes greater and the chance to succeed lower. From 10 to 15 stars, you will not lose a star from failure and your item cannot boom. I recommend starring your items to 12 stars when leveling to 200 for 2 reasons. 1. It is generally pretty cheap to do for your whole inventory, while 15 is a lot more expensive. 2. Getting to 12 stars over 10 will allow you to transfer hammer that Star Force to another item. Transfer hammer, equipment transfer, or foddering all refer to the same action. taking an item with stars and passing those stars on to a higher level item. So for example, you have a 12-star level 100 helmet and you just found a 110 helmet from a mob. You can transfer hammer that 12-star level 100 helmet onto the 110 helmet. Transferring costs a star to do, so the 110 helmet will be sitting at 11 stars, but this saves you from having to start a new piece of gear from 0. You'll find gear from mobs that go all the way up to 140, so transfer hammering is an easy way to make your character stronger without having to invest so much miso into gear. Transfer hammering will also transfer the potential onto the other piece of gear so long as it is epic or rare, and I'll explain potentials in a bit. So okay, you've got your gear sitting at 12 stars, that's a great start and that will likely be enough to get to level 200 no problem. You keep seeing people smega their 22-star equipment or saying 22 or trace. Now what does that mean? Well, above the 15-star threshold is where the star forcing system garners most of the hate. Any attempt above 15 will mean losing a star upon failure. So let's say you tap, which is slang for attempting to gain a star using star force enhancement. An item sitting at 16 stars hoping to get 17. You fail and now your item goes down to 15. It can't go under 15, but every single tap has a 30% chance to succeed. This means that 17 stars is 2 30% chances in a row. Also, you see the safeguard checkbox that just unlocked? Well, any attempt above 15 comes with a chance to boom. Booming is a critical failure where the equipment goes bye-bye, leaving a trace of that item. If you have a spare or a copy of that item, you can transfer the trace onto it, which will leave the copy at 12 stars and keep the flame/potential of the boom equipped. Generally, players will safeguard items that are hard to get spares of while allowing the boom chance on common drops. This is because safeguarding costs extra mesos and can easily become a meso sink if you have to do it on every single item. But you ask, I keep seeing 22-star items. Are people safeguarding above 17? Well, bad news, you can't safeguard it above 17. So that rare item you have, you better hope that A, you can pass all the 30% 22 in a row, and B, it doesn't decide to become a Voltorb on you. Now the reason people stop at 22 stars in the first place is because 23 stars is functionally impossible. The success rate goes from 30% to 3%, and the chance of booming goes from about 7% to 20%. So, while people do have 23-star items, those people are not going to be you. So don't expect to get 23, it's just something people do for fun, and if it fails then they don't lose anything. Oh my god, I hear you cry, what an awful system. Who would play a game where the progression system requires random chance to succeed? Why would I want to have the chance to blow up an item I've spent months farming for? Look, it's not all bad. Due to a lot of cost reduction and quality of life improvements, star forcing is actually much easier than you might think. Or at least it isn't as mentally damaging as it used to be. In a recent update, we lost a chance to boom from 12 to 15, and the star loss from failing 10 to 15. That ended up being a huge reduction in effective cost of 22 an item. Also, most people will keep their equipment at 17 stars until much later in the game, really 250 to 260 plus, and even at that point go for 21 stars until they have nothing else left to improve. There are also a lot of events that help improve your chances and really should only be engaging with the system during one of these events. 5, 10, 15 makes it so that you cannot fail 5 to 6, 10 to 11, or 15 to 16 stars. This makes upgrading to 17 basically a 1 in 3 chance. And during a special event called Shining Star Force, you have 5, 10, 15, and a 30% reduction in meso cost. The average cost to Star Force a level 150 item, which will be a lot of your inventory, is only around 3 billion during SSF. Now this might sound like a lot in the early game, but remember that by the time you're going to 21 star anything, you'll probably be making almost double that every week. Now, none of this is to say that this is a great system, but it is not nearly as impossible to surmount as many would say it is. It's a system that greatly punishes greed, so knowing how to approach it and being reasonable about how much you can expect given miso and spares is important for saving your mental. Don't expect to be lucky. Expect to be slightly above the average. Now, on to potential and cubing. You might have seen drops that have this weird little aura around them. That signifies that those items have potential, which is an additional set of bonus stats on equipment. Potentials have 4 ranks: rare, epic, unique, and legendary. As they increase, they both change color and give a higher percentage number. The reason potentials are important is because they give an additional bonus percentage towards your main stat. So, if you're a luck class, getting all your potentials to be what is called 3-line, or having 3 lines of potential relevant to your main stat, is a huge damage gain and one of the main progression goals of your character. Now, let's say that you're a level 120 warrior and found a couple of items with potential. That's great, but when you use the magnifying glass to reveal it, none of them were strength percent, and they are all sitting at rare while other pieces don't have any potential at all. First, let's look at potential scrolls. Potential scrolls add potential to items that don't have it. If you have an epic potential scroll or even a unique or legendary, note that these are very rare and event only, you can add potential to a naked item or an item with a lower tier. So adding a legendary scroll to an epic item will turn it legendary. You can get potential scrolls in a variety of ways. Rare potential scrolls drop from mobs and bosses. Epic potential scrolls come from events, e-bosses, hunting portals, Legion Shop, Ursha's Shop, Dojo, U-Garden, or event shops. Cubing refers to cubes, items that will reroll that potential. These cubes also have tiers and will determine what level of potential you can reroll. So for example, mystical cubes, which are the most common ones to find, only allow you to reroll rare and epic potentials. Hard cubes will allow you to go up to unique. Solid cubes go to legendary. And then there are special cubes sold in the cash shop, glowing and bright cubes. Glowing are the exact same as solid cubes. They allow you to reroll legendary potential, while bright cubes do the same and allow you to pick before or after. Note that your weapon, secondary, and emblem are the only equipment that can roll attack, boss, and IED lines. This is one of the main reasons why people say to tier up these items first, as they will give you the highest damage for potential. You can also tier up your gloves to legendary and start getting crit damage lines. These lines are also very important, but I wouldn't focus on these until you at least have your Absolab gloves. As you try to reach level 200, getting your equipment to 3 to 6% main stat is your goal. This is best done by using mystical cubes from bosses like Zakum, normal Root Abyss, from completing bounty hunter portals, and from elite bosses. Use the cube on your item and get a different random potential. This will also take some miso to reveal, so keep this in mind while rolling for main stat. Now, pre-140, it's nothing to really worry about, but you will need to start improving your gear with Star Force and potentials to progress to 200. Equipment set bonuses. Many individual pieces of larger equipment sets will provide a set bonus upon equipping a number of pieces. So, for example, Pensilia provides set bonuses that increase with each piece you equip. This has already been optimized, so just follow the general progression path. This is merely just to explain why we use the equips that we do in Reboot, so using the 3-set CRA along with Arcanes and Superior Gallic set. Bosses give unique items along with cubes, flames, recipes, and boss crystals. You can sell these boss crystals to the collector for misos. There are 2 types of bosses, daily and weekly bosses. Daily bosses can be completed once per day, and weekly bosses once per week. Generally, daily bosses will be the early game bosses, while weekly bosses provide much larger rewards, including best in slot gear and valuable boss crystals. Each boss is unique and offer different difficulty levels. As the difficulty increases, bosses will deal more damage, give more debuffs, or introduce new mechanics to make the fight harder. Every boss has their own pattern, so look up some guides to learn how to beat each one. The bossing UI is attached to the Maple guide and will allow you to fast travel to each one. This will also show you which ones you have completed and what they can drop as a reward. Hyperstats are an additional system you can put stats into after level 140. Each level you gain will give you more skill points that you can put into hyperstats. There are hyperstat optimizers you can use once you're a high level. While you're gaining levels relatively quickly, you can just focus on critical damage, and normal monster damage for mobbing, and critical damage, IED, and boss damage for bossing. There are 3 presets you can use, so feel free to set up different presets for mobbing and bossing. Also, if you don't have 100% crit, putting points in a critical chance might be worth it. Hyper skills are class dependent and unlock at 140. There are passive hyper skills and active hyper skills. Passive skills require you to select 5 out of 9 passives to improve skills you already have unlocked. So, for example, gaining 20% additional boss damage on skills. Refer to your class Discord to see which skills you want to upgrade. Active skills aren't restricted, so you can unlock all 3 at the designated level. Prequests are a huge part of the game as a new player, and you really want to start doing them as soon as you reach level 200, most likely. Doing Magnus, Root Abyss, Princess No, Galix, Pink Bean, Lotus and Damien will all be relevant if you want to get equipment to progress into Arcane River and beyond. Most of these prequests are straightforward, so I won't get into them here, but please keep in mind that when going over the gear progression section, you will likely need to do a series of prequests to obtain the next step of gear. Check the description for a list of important prequests. Pets pick up loot on the ground for you and come in 2 flavors, regular and vac pets. Both collect items off the ground, but vac pets suck up items, which allow you to have even lazier looting. Regular pets usually go for around $5, and you can get Blackheart pets as a drop from normal and Hardhilla. Hardhilla has a much higher chance to drop a box, so keep that in mind. Vac pets are only available during specific sales windows and cost $100. Now you don't need vac pets, but it does make grinding rotations much easier. You can also buy skills for pets, including auto feed, auto move, auto HP and MP, auto buff, and ignore items. We often get regular pets with skills for free during events if you're looking to be more free to play. If not, I recommend trying to get Blackheart pets and then buying skills on them to reduce the amount of money you'll need. Pets also have a subscription cost of sorts. Regular pets will die every 90 days and need a water of life to revive them. These cost $240 USD, and you can get a free one in the reward shop each month. Vac pets, on the other hand, require a $14 item to revive every month. Now, you can think of this as a subscription cost to play Maplestory or refuse to pay. The choice is yours. 150 to 200 will mostly be taken up by just grinding. Put points into hyperstats, make sure your gear is good enough to progress. If you find yourself dying to mobs, make sure they complete the Trainer's Command quest to get a free pet that will heal you. Put your potions in the pet tab of your equipment so that it will use them. Continue following the Maple Guide locations till 200. There isn't much new here to talk about. At level 199 or 197 if you're burning, you can get the final level for free by doing the Haven prequests. Now at level 200 you unlock the 5th job system, which can be very confusing to people who have not gone through this progression before. I won't go over the actual quest since there are plenty of guides for that on YouTube. Once you're finished, you'll be met with the V-Matrix screen. 5th job will be undergoing some large changes after New Age, including how many slots you'll have at certain levels, but here is this general info. You'll start with 7 slots at level 200, and your 4 5th job nodes. Put your nodes at each slot, and now you can use the skills. You'll also see the option for slot enhancement. Each level you get will give you a matrix point to upgrade a node slot from 1 to 5. This will add additional levels to your node and bring your cap to level 30. So a max node at 25 plus 5 will be 30, which you can see here. Node stones will randomly drop from mobs in Arcane River and Grandis areas, and will give a random node when used. These can be skill nodes like your 5th job skills, boost nodes which will contain 3 random boosts of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or hyper skills, common skills, which will be buffs like Sharp Eyes or Holy Blessing, or special nodes, which give very specific buffs when triggered. For the most part, you can ignore special nodes as they won't be very helpful for you this early on, and only a couple are useful at all. These being Fatal Strike 1, which gives 100% damage for 2 seconds and is used in bossing or culvert, Character Building, which give a 50% EXP buff for 20 seconds, and maybe Rune or Boss Slayer depending on your class. Since these skills expire a week after opening anyways, I would disassemble any special nodes you get until later in the game. Character building can be useful if you are grinding a lot, but it's likely that early on you won't have space for it and it'll be more than likely a better option until 250 plus anyways. Please note that depending on how many slots we have after the New Age update, you might be able to slot in character building earlier. Skills and commons work the same, where each node will serve as material to improve another. So, for example, combining 2 separate level 1 Holy Symbol nodes will create one node with 90% experience. Combining a third will improve that to a level 2 Holy Symbol node with some leftover experience. The same is true for your 5th job skills. Combining multiple skills will leave you with one leveled skill. When opening nodes, you can combine these nodes as soon as you get them, with the exception of certain common skills which just aren't worth upgrading. You can always max everything later on, but especially with these commons, they don't provide much of a buff, so these materials can be better served as upgrade fuel for more useful nodes. Boost skills work a little differently. Each boost will have one primary skill and 2 sub-skills. The primary skill is how these nodes are categorized, so upgrading them will require 2 of the same primary skill boost nodes. You can think of each node as A, B, C, with A being the primary skill and B and C being the secondary skills. You can combine nodes like ABC and ACB, or even nodes like ABD and AED. Now, I know that can be kind of confusing, so let's use a real example. I'm trying to improve my nodes on my Angelic Buster, which will be my Hyper Burden. I just opened around 100 nodes and I have no upgrades whatsoever, as I've just completed the 5th job advancement. So, referring to the Angelic Buster FAQ in the class Discord, I can see that we have 6 skills to boost. Since each node has 3 skills, that means we'll need 2 pair of nodes. One pair with Trinity, Roar, and Soul Seeker, and the other with Supernova, Resonance, and Ribbon. Now, you might be confused when I say a pair. While it's true that each node will cap at level 25, and remember with the extra matrix points on the node slot, this brings it up to level 30, the actual cap for boost nodes is 50 plus 10 from 2 separate node slots. So, in order to max out your boost nodes, you will need pairs of boost nodes. And these come in any order as long as you have the 3 skills you need all boosted. Okay. It's a very confusing system with a lot of jargon, so explaining it outright is pretty difficult. Instead, let's look at what the AB received from opening node stones. First thing I would do is go ahead and lock every unique skill node you get, except for Mystic Door, which is completely useless, which is exactly what I do here. This will keep you from accidentally destroying useful nodes, and it makes the whole process a little bit faster. The next thing I would do is upgrade my 4 5th job skill nodes with extras I received from opening node stones. Fortunately, I don't get very lucky, and they're all sitting at level 1 still, and this will probably mirror your experience, as getting the exact nodes you need can be kind of a luck of the draw type of thing. As mentioned, I'm looking to create 2 different pairs of boost nodes. Now, you'll likely see in FAQ sections or guides what are called bossing and mobbing trios or tri-nodes. These refer to the type of skills boosted in the node. Bossing trios will have your bossing skills boosted, and mobbing trios will have your mobbing skills boosted. Now, this designation is to allow you to be as strong as possible while doing mobbing or bossing, and using as few node slots as possible. With New Age and expanded node slots, this distinction will become kind of pointless, and you can create boost nodes with any combination of useful skills, but it makes it a lot easier to follow what exactly you need to have. I'll be doing my bossing trio first, so we want any combination of Soul Seeker, Trinity, and Roar. You can use the search function to easily find combinations, and again, unluckily, I have no boost nodes with all 3 of those skills. If this happens to you, the best thing you can do is basically create a group of 3, with each skill in the trio as a primary node. So, I'll be making a Soulseeker primary boost, a Roar primary boost, and a Trinity primary boost. I'm looking to try and get 2 of the 3 together, which will make the boost a little bit more effective than just having one by itself. So, my Soulseeker node has Trinity as well, so both will be boosted at least. And I also go ahead and lock these nodes to not disassemble them. Putting them in my node slot allows me to now see the boosts in my 5th job skill window. Now that they're equipped, there isn't much more to do with them. They're essentially passive buffs to final damage, but they are huge. 2% final damage per level is a ton of damage, and when maxed, they'll give a whopping 120% extra final damage to the boosted skills. Nodes are one of the fastest and easiest ways to become stronger, so utilizing them is very, very important. This is also one of the cheapest ways to become stronger, actually, as they don't involve using Meso and are basically their own separate thing. Finally, I go ahead and just combine the rest of the nodes I'll be using and ignoring some of the less useful common skills. As this is just a hyper burning mule, I won't be upgrading many of the commons past level 1, as it's not really necessary and those nodes can be better used elsewhere. Looking for mobbing trio, and unfortunately I'm unlucky again. Usually it will take a few hundred nodes to find your perfect trios, as they're called, so don't feel down if you don't get them for a while. Making do with nodes that boost 2 out of 3 of the skills you want will still be a pretty big upgrade, and when you do find the perfect node, you can upgrade it with the experience stored in the imperfect one. You can see an example of this here. I've just opened another 200 nodes and finally have a perfect mobbing trio. I have this level 9 imperfect trio I can feed into this perfect, and transfer the EXP without any loss. There's no need to not upgrade an imperfect node, as you won't lose anything. Just be sure to transfer it into the perfect one you want and not the other way around. One last thing about nodes in the V-Matrix I wanted to mention before moving on is disassembling and node crafting. Now, I have a lot of extra node skills left over that I don't need to upgrade, so I'm going to disassemble them. This will give me node shards I can use to make the specific ones that I want. I'm just double checking here that all the nodes I'm throwing away are bad, and it's a good thing I do as there's some useful ones that I missed. Once you've gone through, you can just disassemble them all and be rewarded with your node shards. Similar to the boost trios, there will probably be a leveling order for your specific character in the class Discord or guide, so refer to that. I will be upgrading Spotlight and Loaded Dice first, as both will help me level faster. Make sure to take advantage of this system to help progress your 5th job skills even faster. Arcane River, sometimes referred to wholly as Vanishing Journey or VJ, is the name for the 200 to 260 areas you'll be playing in. This area was first introduced with 5th job and provides much of the content you'll experience in the early and mid game. Starting at level 200, you'll be brought into Vanishing Journey, the first section of this area. This area has a resource called Arcane Power, which you get from doing dailies, weeklies, and rarely as a mob drop. Arcane Power determines how effective you'll be at hitting mobs. Each area will have its own Arcane Power level that you'll need to meet or exceed to do effective damage to mobs. You'll start with 40 Arcane Force as a base, or 80 if you're on a Hyper Burning character. And if you're in a leveled guild, you'll have some extra Arcane Force as well as being able to put points in your hyperstats. Since I've already done the prequests, I can just auto-complete it. It'll be hard to complete these prequests as a new player since you'll be asked to go into higher Arcane Force areas than your symbols will probably allow. But if you put points in your hyperstats and join a guild for the passive bonuses, you should be alright. And completing these prequests usually take around half an hour to an hour depending on the area. Some will be longer than others. Once the prequest is completed, you'll be able to start doing the dailies or weeklies for that section, and these are simple kill or collect quests and should be pretty self-explanatory. Completing them gives you additional symbols that you use to combine to that area's arcane symbol. Now, upgrading this does require a small amount of meso, but it also gives you 100 flat main stat along with the additional arcane power each time you upgrade. Now, each symbol can be upgraded to level 20, which takes about 3 months to do just doing dailies and weeklies, but with the amount of extra symbols we get from events and hyper burning and everything else, you can usually do it much faster. At the end, you'll have an extra 13,200 stat from your symbols, which is certainly nothing to scoff at. Every 5 character levels, you'll also progress into a new section after completing that part's prequest. At level 235, you'll have all 6 symbols and all of the daily/weekly quests available to do, and from that point on, it's basically just finishing up all the rest of the Arcane River and pushing for the 260 plus Grandis areas. Before I even start on the gear progression section of this guide, I just want to point out why it's so difficult to give generic gear progression advice past, well, you want these things. There are several competing systems that, depending on exactly where you are, might have different priority levels. So, for example, if you're level 210 and feel that you don't do any damage, there could be a variety of different things holding you back. Your Arcane Force could be too low. Your equipment could be suboptimal, or your equipment might not be starred enough, or your potentials are bad. Your weapon could have a terrible flame. You could be lacking Legion level or Link skills. You could have your Legion board set up poorly. Your hyperstats might have the wrong values. You could be node poor. Hell, you might not even be playing the class right, like I did playing Ice Lightning without using Infinity when I came back to the game. There are so many things that go into a character's strength, and determining the exact pathway will largely be up to the individual making the right decisions. So while I will go through a generic pathway to the mid and late game, it's important to consider that changing the order might make sense for you. I highly recommend either watching or participating in the account reviews that Dookie or Reklo Game give, as the advice is very good and helps me progress to the endgame. Okay, with all that being said, let's go through how I would start as a new player. Firstly, if you're new, just try out some classes. Get them to level 70 or level 100 depending on how much you like them. Ideally, you would start with classes who have good Link skills and Legion benefits. This will depend on what class you want to main, so say for example I want to play a Dawn Warrior. Dawn Warrior's main stat is Strength, so I will level an Arc, Buccaneer, and Demon Avenger first, as they all provide good Link skills and Legion benefits. The exact order will change depending on what your main is, which is exactly what makes this kind of thing so difficult to create, but look through the benefits that each character will give and decide what might be a priority. You will want to do the 3 main experience links, Aran, Evan, and Mercedes early on, as they will make the entire process much faster, but note that Evan and Mercedes can be weak and annoying to play with low damage. While doing this, you can start your main, and especially if there's a burning event, begin your journey to level 200. You can follow the outlines in the earlier parts of this video, but for clarity, grab whatever gear you can from mob drops or themed dungeon quests up to around level 100. From level 100 to level 140, do normal Zackum every day until you have both the face and eye accessory. At around level 140, you'll want to start collecting Pencilier gear, which will drop from mobs from now on. There isn't a higher level of gear you can obtain without clearing bosses, so this set will be what you use to progress further. Collect all your Pencilier pieces, and feel free to keep some extras as you might be able to use them in the future. At this point, make sure to star all of the pieces to 12 stars, and start trying to cube for 3 to 6% using the free mystical cubes you can find while grinding or from doing Zackum. At this point, you can start trying to do easy or normal Horntail each day, depending on how long the pre-200 section takes, in the hopes of getting the Deicitus earrings and Silver Blossom ring. If/when you get these, make sure to star both, the ring to 10 and the earring to 12, and potential them to 3 to 6% main stat as well. Also, make sure to complete your level 100 Lightbulb quest to receive your emblem. Get this to Epic ASAP and go for 6% attack. Do the same thing with your level 100 secondary, which you can buy from Neville in town. Some classes will use a different secondary than the one you can buy, so check your class FAQ to see what you might need to craft or gather. At level 180, you can unlock Gollix and start clearing him every day to get coins or equipment. Only hard and hell modes will drop the coins you need to buy superior gear from the shop, and only hell mode will drop superior belts and earrings, but this will take a while to be able to do. Clearing normal may feel like a waste right now, but solid level equipment will likely be an upgrade, plus you can transfer them into reinforced and then transfer those into superior. Little tip 2 is that normal Gollix can drop cracked and solid rings or pendants, which would be very good to have if you can get them. If you happen to get either the ring or the pendant, start to 12 and potential it. Cracked pendants you can ignore, but solid pendants are a pretty good upgrade over the Mechanator and Chaos Horntail pendant you would otherwise use. This gear should be more than enough to get to level 200, and if this is your first time, then congratulations. The game has moved on since this was a huge achievement for only the elite players, but it's still a pretty big milestone, so pat yourself on the back. Go and complete your 5th job advancement and use those skills to start clearing Normal Arcarium, Chaos Horntail, Normal Magnus, and Normal Pink Beam for the boss equipment you need. Some important spares you need for a Superior Gallic set will be the Golden Clover Belt, the Dominator Pendant, and Kana's Treasure from Princess Nell, along with the Reinforced Earrings. This means that you can ignore bosses like Normal Magnus and Chaos Horntail once you have their drops. Now this guide was already pretty damn long, so I didn't include a section on familiars. If you really want to learn how familiars work more in depth, I would recommend Akkad 3's familiar guide, but otherwise, I would say at this point, you should try to use whatever familiars you've gathered while grinding, insert them into your familiar book, and then see if you can get 15% IED from any of them. Getting 2 IED FAMs will help tremendously in your bossing journey. At this point, you want to be doing Arcane River dailies / weeklies, doing daily bosses for their equipment, and trying to level. This is where it gets hard to give a progression path. Once you start to 3 or 4 shot mobs in Arcane River, it's likely time to raise your Legion and Link skills. This could be going into Choo Choo, the level 210 area for some, or as late as Arcana at 225 depending on gear, class diff, etc. At this point, your goal should be finishing off whatever Link skills you need to fill all 12 slots. Your class guide might give you pointers on what 12 links your class will need for mobbing and bossing, as these tend to differ a bit. Try to get all of these to level 70 first, and then slowly improve them to 140. This will also help your Legion, which you should be aiming to get to 3 or 4k ASAP. At 4k Legion, your grid will have expanded 3 times, allowing you to put blocks into even better buffs like critical damage and normal monster damage. Getting your links done in 4k Legion will make you significantly stronger and should allow you to push all the way to 250 as long as you are progressing your gear correctly. Okay, so you took a break from the main to do links in Legion and now you're ready to push to 250. With links in Legion done, you should be easily able to do all of the bosses under Normal Lotus and Damien. Start with trying to do Normal Cygnus, Hard Hilla, Chaos Zachem, and Chaos Pink Bean. Only Chaos Pink Bean gives a piece of equipment worth using, the Black Bean mark, but the rest all give boss crystals you can use to sell for Meso, and they should be pretty simple at this point. Do Chaos Root Abyss, as you should have the 5 days needed of normal Root Abyss cleared by this point. These bosses are pretty simple, but refer to a guide if you need help clearing. You should have more than enough damage to clear, so if you can't do it, you're probably just dying out too quickly. Remember to use the potions from Monster Park, as well as the Ursus buff and guild buff, along with guild skills if you're in a guild that has them. Get your boss pieces and make the Chaos Root Abyss gear for your class. You won't have enough to make the weapon from Vellum yet, but from now on you'll be doing these bosses every week, so just make the weapon next week. At this point, you should be trying to get each CRA piece to 16 stars. If you have Penciliers with epic potential, you can star them to 17 and then transfer them over, or just star the CRA pieces directly to 16. Once you have the 4 pieces, hat, top, bottom, and weapon, all 16 star, and epic potential, use the hard and solid cubes found from those bosses on your emblem in Princess No Secondary or whatever best in slot piece you have there. Ideally, get both the emblem and secondary to legendary using bright cubes after running out of the free cubes, but if you don't have enough messages to do that, just keep them unique at 9% attack or whatever potential you can get. At this point, you need to start doing Normal Lotus and Damien if you haven't already started. You'll need at least 90% visual IED on your stats to do effective damage, so either put points in your hyperstats, use the IED link skills, put Legion blocks in IED, and or roll for IED on your WSE, weapon secondary or emblem. You'll also want 100% critical chance, but depending on class, this might be hard to achieve, so anything above 80% should be fine. After level 220, it should be fairly straightforward to beat those bosses with everything we've worked for. Look up boss guides if you need to, but try your best to just live over doing damage. You can always optimize for damage later. Use the cores and materials from doing Darkwool Tree and Scrapyard weeklies to get Absolab equipment. In this order, get gloves, shoes, and cape from Scrapyard, and from Darkwool Tree, get weapon and the shoulder. Star all of these items to 16 stars and 6% main stat. The weapon you can roll to legendary, as you'll be using the weapon for a while, and go for any 2-line combination of attack, IED, or boss damage. You can also roll the gloves for legendary or try for 8% critical damage. This is one of the best, if not the best, potential lines in the game, and you can only get it on the gloves. You can leave the rest of the Absolab equipment at 6% epic for right now, as you try to get good potentials on your weapon, secondary, emblem, and gloves. Once your WSC is all 2-line and you have 8% critical damage on your gloves, you can start using the free cubes on the rest of your Absolab gear to start trying to get 9% or higher main stat. You can also start working a bit on flames here, since your gear is a little bit more permanent. Flames are the last thing to upgrade after star forcing a potential, so no need to optimize or spend a lot right now. Just try to get tier 6 weapon attack on your weapon, and on the rest of your equipment, get some combination of your main stat plus all stat percentage. I have 2 links you can use to measure your flame score and see how much it would cost to improve it. It's not something to hyperfixate on, just use the flames you get from boss drops on your gear and get them all to something decent. Wait for a star forcing event, either a 5, 10, 15, or Shining, to push all your gear to 17 stars. Use the Meso you've saved from doing Ursus and weekly bosses to do this. The order of priority should be weapon, gloves, the rest of the Absolab equipment, and then whatever else you have that can go to 17. At this point, depending on how your drops have gone, you could have a huge variety of equipment, so try to think about what gear you have and star accordingly. So for example, if you have a superior belt, you can star it to 17, but don't pot it above epic. You'll be transferring golden clover belts into this later, so there's no point in wasting money trying to get a good potential at unique or legendary. Using the belt or other subs at 17 is fine, as there's nothing better really, but make sure to spend your Meso wisely. Remember that potentials are way less cost effective than star forcing, and don't provide nearly enough damage before your full 22 star to justify the cost. By the time you have full Abso at 17, you should, hopefully, have all 4 pieces of your superior Golix set, along with enough charm to equip the Pink Holy Cup from normal Pink Bean or Chaos Pink Bean. This will be enough to get to 250, and at that point you can start thinking about joining Hard Lucid and Hard Will parties. You'll also want to start doing normal slime as soon as you can, because even though it has a very low chance to drop the slime ring, it is a best in slot piece of equipment, so you might as well start doing it earlier rather than later. I can't give an effective progression after this point, but basically you'll just replace your Absolab with Arcane equipment, 21 star your CRA equipment, transfer and star your superior set to 21. If you don't have your Arcanes at 17, then do that now. Then you can start working on getting the rest of your accessories to 21, including your Kana's treasure ring, your Dominator pendant, your Twilight mark if you have one, your Black Beam mark, and your Meister's ring if you've crafted one. At this point, you can start going for 22s. The easiest ones to go for would be your CRA, or your superior belt and earring, as you can get a lot of spares for those. Hopefully they go, and at that point you can start doing your superior ring and pendant once you have enough coins for a spare. At this point you should have a pretty good idea of how to progress, so I'll end the guide here. This is a ton of info, and I know if you're starting out this will be a lot to digest, but just take it one step at a time. This was an abbreviated journey of likely 2 to 3 months for a new player, so just take it slow and enjoy the journey. Maplestory is a marathon and not a race. I also specifically didn't mention Meso and drop gear because it's tough to say when to start going for these pieces. Meso and drop are potential lines you can get on rings, pendants, face and eye accessories, and earrings. These increase the amount of Mesos and notestones you get while grinding mobs, as well as increasing the chance of item drops from bosses. While these pieces are very important to have, it's up to the individual when you'll start working on this. I recommend just using the boss accessories you'll have left over after replacing them with best in slot equips, as well as event rings you get. This is something you can focus on when you have enough damage elsewhere to still one-shot while training, so probably somewhere around level 250 for a new player. With burning as well, you'll be leveling much faster, so you won't be missing out on a huge amount of farm by waiting, although obviously the earlier you do this, the better. You can use 5 lines of meso and 10 lines of item drop, so to maximize you'll need double or hybrid lines. I would say the easiest way to do this would be to just take whatever you can get. If you end up getting 3 lines of meso and 2 lines of drop first, then just use that until you can get all 5 lines of meso. And then after that, you can start rolling for more drop rate. Maxing the meso first is important since the faster you acquire it, the faster you'll get more cubes and the faster you can progress. Once you start to get later in the game and your account is more established, you can start rolling for hybrid lines to try and maximize your farming potential, but this probably won't be until you have at least a few boss mules, as it can be pretty expensive to roll for hybrids. And wow, that was a ton of info. If you've made it all the way to the end, then I wanted to just say thank you so much for allowing me to talk at you for so long. Hopefully this was enlightening and you'll be able to use this as the stepping stone on your long Maplestory grind. Due to how long this already was, I had to gloss over some things or give a more generalized intro, but there are lots of very talented people making more in-depth guides, while things like this I felt were kind of lacking. There really wasn't a beginner's guide, so to say, for Maplestory that approached it from a new perspective, so hopefully I was able to do that for you. I also didn't talk about 6th Job at all because, to be honest, it's not out yet and I haven't bothered to learn it. That's something I wanted to get into myself once it's released for us here in GMS. If there's a ton of interest in it, I'd be happy to make a guide, although I'm sure there will be a ton of other people that already have one out. Once again, if you have any unanswered questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to try to answer them. And yeah, that's it. Go play Maplestory. Have fun, kids.